Hi guys, welcome back to the Shannon Show. Hello if you're new. So today's video is going to be a spoiler review of Extraction, which just dropped on Netflix. So it's got Chris Hemsworth in it, and that was literally enough to sell me on watching this film. I knew it was going to be an action film. The trailer kind of gave me Taken vibe. So this is definitely something that was hot on my watch list. I was pretty confident that Chris Hemsworth was going to deliver. Now, and I guess the question is, did Chris Hemsworth deliver? I'll let you know in due course. But yeah, this is a spoiler review, so if you haven't watched it and you don't want to know what happens, then I suggest watching the film then coming back so we can talk about it. It is going to be plot heavy, granted. I'm not sure if this is the strongest plot in the world, but I just want to talk about the film. I feel like I haven't done a spoiler review in a while, so let's just talk about the film. So in terms of what the film is about, quick summary, obviously, Chris Hemsworth, he's the lead as Tyler. He's this mercenary that has been sent on this mission to capture somebody's son. And there's a lot of action and there's a lot of drama. And that is basically a simple rundown of the film. So the film opens up with Chris Hemsworth. He's in a battle scene. He's shooting. And it's already teasing us for what we are going to see in this film. Chris Hemsworth in action. Now, after watching the film, I'm not sure if that was actually him at the end of the film or him in a whole different mission before the job that he was assigned in this whole film. If someone can clarify, I would be grateful. So then it cuts to India, Mumbai, which is the kind of area in which the film is set in. We see Ovi, one of the main characters in the film. He's a teenager, he's coming home. He's already being told off for not coming home straight after school. And we see him rebelling. He's going out with his friends. He's doing stuff that he shouldn't be. He's trying to live his baby boy life. He's drinking, he's smoking. And he ends up in a situation where he is kidnapped. And obviously if you watch the trailer, you knew he was going to be kidnapped. But when those cops stop those two boys, who even knows if they were real cops or bad cops? I've heard some stories about them cops out in India with the corruption going on. And then when he was like, how he wasn't going to bust them for smoking a joint, I was like, this is probably the point where he gets kidnapped. Obviously, that is the kind of first kill that we see. His friend just gets shot up, and it's very jarring because it's just like, was that necessary to kill his friend like that? Like, okay. So obviously at that point, this isn't no cute kidnap. These people are ruthless. So it turns out Ovi, who's been kidnapped, is the son of a powerful gangster in India, and he's been kidnapped by a rival gang in Bangladesh as payback. And obviously Ovi's dad is not happy about it in prison, and he tells his handler, you got to get my son back or there's going to be hell to pay. And then obviously his handler is shook because the big boss has threatened his family if this whole thing with his son is not resolved. And obviously him being in prison, his assets are even tied up, which makes it even more sticky situation. But even though he has no money, obviously these people have respect. So it's like, if you don't do what they say, you and your family are going to end up dead. So obviously he's telling his wife, you know, we're in a sticky situation. Don't worry because I have a plan. Then we cut to his Hemsworth character, Tyler. I believe he's still in Australia at this point. And I'm not going to lie, I'm definitely here for Chris Hemsworth being in this film. But I'm not sure if it makes sense for an Australian guy to be this skilled mercenary. I don't know, I'm not really buying it. I feel like that was definitely an oversight here. I'm not really sure if the best mercenaries come from Australia. I'm not sure if I can really buy that. I definitely think it was a thing where we want Chris Hemsworth in the film. He wants to do it in his original accent, so we're just gonna have to make it work. But yeah, did anyone else think that Tyler being this Australian mercenary was a bit dodgy? Let me know. But it is Chris Hemsworth, so I guess we can give him a pass. Obviously, we see Chris Hemsworth. He's just chilling on a cliff, and then suddenly he just jumps off of the cliff, really high up cliff into water. And I was just thinking, is that even realistic? Because and it looked like an epic shot, but I was just kind of thinking, in real life, would that even be realistic? Because the pressure, surely that would hurt. Like the water would just like be slapping your skin. But it seems like he just went in, and then suddenly he's now at the bottom of the lake or whatever. He's swimming and he's just meditating. And I'm not gonna lie, that was a little bit funny. Obviously, I can see what they're trying to do. They're trying to make it look like he's this super fit, skilled mercenary. And I'm not gonna lie, that bit was a little bit cheesy. But I was definitely like, okay, they're preparing us for some superhuman ability. So I knew we were gonna be some good action scenes ahead. So they give us a little backstory from Tyler. And it seems like he is this mercenary that is in and out of work. He needs money. He's an alcoholic. He's been popping pills. He doesn't really care about life. And he's going out on these missions not really caring if he lives or dies. But from that point, even if you hadn't watched the trailer, you could kind of deduce that he had lost somebody in his life. And that's the reason why he was depressed. So the mercenary agency or task force or whatever pays him a visit, tells him about the OV rescue mission job, and he takes the job. And then instantly we're thrown into the mission. We see the task force is looking all professional. Tyler arrives in Bangladesh, and the first thing that happens to him is he's kidnapped by the people who have kidnapped Ovi. And at first I was kind of just like, well, you know, why has he let them kidnap him so easy if he's supposed to be this skilled mercenary? But it becomes clear that obviously they knew this is what was going to happen. He was kind of brought in as somebody who was going to pretend to bargain with them and then fuck shit up. And obviously that is what happened. We get our first action-packed scene. And I think the first scene was probably my favourite action scene in the movie. There is quite a fair bit of action in it, but I think the first action scene is my favourite action scene in the film. And then obviously we saw the struggle on the stairwell. Even though it seems impossible that he managed to disarm all of these people with a sack on his head and handcuffed, he manages to do it. And you know what? It looks realistic. It looks like if you were a skilled mercenary, you'd be able to do that in real life. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. I think maybe it was a little unrealistic that with the scuffle going on, because I feel like there was, if I can remember correctly, there was like a gunshot or two that came out of the struggle after when he was going for the gun. It's just kind of like, how did nobody from upstairs? And I feel like, okay, maybe something's going on the stairs, because the way that the building looked as well, it looks like you can hear everything that's going on in other rooms, the type of building that they were in. So I thought maybe that was a little bit realistic, that nobody came out to see what the noise was about. But either way, I was here for handcuffed, cloth over their head, and Chris Hemsworth tearing shit on the corridor stairs. And then obviously after that, we see him going back up to the holding place where they're holding Ovi. He's banging on the door. And again, him banging on the door. Obviously, there's no peephole there, so he's going in entirely blind. I'm not sure if banging on the door loudly would be the best thing to do. Personally, I would have thought maybe just knocking on the door like you were a normal gangster who was involved with them, to say, you know, let me in, I'm one of you lot. So it was already suspicious him banging on the door, but that was just a little nitpick. I was still here for the drama. And then obviously he shoots the guy through the door. I saw that coming. And when that guy was going close to the door, I'm just like, it's only a matter of time before his head gets blown off. And what do you know, literally 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Head gets blown off and all hell breaks loose. Everyone's coming for him. Chris Hemsworth is fighting everybody in the room. There was one particular move that I loved when he literally like swept this guy off of his feet. Like, I don't know, something that my brother used to do to me all the time when he used to be in his WWE phase, is like sweep my legs from under me. And that was funny, I'm not gonna lie. It reminded me of old memories. And yeah, I feel like honestly the choreography in that scene was literally 10 out of 10. We had gun combat, we had hand-on-hand combat. The editing was done really well, the cinematography was done really well. It kind of low-key reminded me of the early 2000s action movies like Jason Bourne Supremacy. Kind of edit and action, the dubs as well that they did, the loud dubs that they had for the punching, and when we hear impact and stuff like stabbing. That scene at the end with the rake, the sound of it sounded so disgusting that it was oddly satisfying. And obviously within this fight you kind of see a little kid like hiding under the stairs, and I was just like, I bet you that kid is going to do something stupid. And then obviously at the end of the fight scene you just kind of see the little kid just standing there with a gun pointed at Tyler, and the gun jams. And I was just kind of thinking, did you actually not see your homies get murked up. I was just thinking, if I saw my homies get murked off, there's only me left and I've managed to survive, I'm just running out of that place. Who is trying to play hero? Obviously, maybe he thought, if he killed Tyler, maybe he'd get some sort of medal, some prize or whatever. And obviously, and what's even more comical is that after the gun has done jam like 3 times, and you're still standing there after you've seen these people get murked up, and then like, I guess Tyler was just looking at him like, I'm not going to kill this little boy. Like, obviously he's harmless, and, he shows him mercy and lets him go. And I think maybe that could have been foreshadowing him letting that little boy go, because a true mercenary would have eliminated everybody, regardless of age. I think these child soldiers out here can't be trusted either. So when he let him go, I feel like that was a little bit of foreshadowing going on. I think me, if I was a mercenary, the stupid kid would have to go, sorry. But what do you guys think? Would you think, if you were a cutthroat mercenary, a legit mercenary, you graduated from mercenary school, everything, are you letting that little child go, or are you finishing the job? Let me know what you would have done in the comments. So then obviously he has Ovi now, Tyler, and now it's just about getting them out of Bangladesh and back into India. Then we cut to the bad guys who are responsible for the kidnapping. And the main guy is called Amir. They basically paint him out to be this ruthless criminal. We see a scene with him and some kids. I guess they're probably his low-level workers, and he's accusing one of them of stealing his money. Obviously, they're not trying to snitch on each other, or maybe they just don't know who did it. And then just take one of the kids and just sling him over the balcony like it was yesterday's rubbish. And I was just like, well, shit, man. Then he's talking about chopping people's fingers off. And I'm not really sure if I found that kind of like, oh, this is a bad guy. I'm not really sure. It kind of just felt a little bit generic. It kind of just felt like the writer of this film, who was clearly not from South Asia, watched 1 or 2 documentaries about gangs in India and just picked up snippets and put them all into this Amir character. Because I just kind of felt like, what is going on here? This is just a bit dramatic. And then when he was telling the guy to chop off his fingers, I was just like, what is going on here? Like, I get he's supposed to be this villain, but I don't know. I think maybe they should have structured his villainness a different way. But what did you guys think of that situation? Were you here for it? Was it a nice bit of drama? Or did you feel like they kind of just were a bit lazy with creating this villain? Obviously, that child that got ordered to chop his fingers off gets saved from the news that Ovi has escaped. He obviously has a lot of influence, a lot of power in terms of like the police, and everything. And he puts the whole city on lockdown. That's how much power this Amir guy has. So I'm just kind of thinking, if this Amir guy has so much power to be shutting down the city, why has he got little kids doing his dirty work for him? Again, a bit sketchy with the narrative, because for me, I kind of feel like usually if you're using kids to do your dirty work, then that means you don't have that much money, you don't have that much power, and that's why you are manipulating little kids to do your dirty work for you. So the mercenary team had planned this escape route for Tyler and Ovi via boat, but with the whole city being locked down, their site has been intercepted. The task force takes a major hit. Some people die. On Tyler's side, the sniper that was holding it down for Tyler gets taken out. It quickly turns into this kind of action/trapped thing. They're trying to fight they're trying to find a route out, but we know along the way of them finding a route out, there's going to be lots of fight scenes within it. We get another chase scene. We get a chase scene now with the police, obviously the corrupt, and are working with the criminal gangs. Definitely here for the car chase scene. I feel like every good action film has a nice, satisfying car scene. And I like the camera angle because it kind of felt like we were in the back seat with them, like trying to get away. Even when we turn around and see the back glass at the back, it kind of just felt like we were turning around. Kind of felt like, oh, we can see what's happening as well, like through their eyes. The car scene was very well paced, very well shot, and a nice bit of action in there. So then obviously Tyler and Ovi end up trapped in this building complex. They're surrounded by the police. And again, we see some action again. It's a bit more of again. I feel like notably that first death, the first kill in that whole complex, when he basically just stabs up that guy, the sounds, he basically just sliced him like a fish. That was a very brutal death. And even Ovi's there just looking like, what the fuck has my daddy gotten me into? So Tyler is essentially just fighting their way out of the building. And then the handler shows up, which I thought was a bit interesting. Obviously, right off the bat, Tyler does not trust the handler. And I wasn't sure why Tyler didn't trust the handler and why there was not really any communication between them, because aren't they both meant to be on the same team? And Tyler was basically alluding to the fact that he doesn't trust him. He feels like the handler could take you and give you back to the guys. And Ovi was just kind of going along with it because at first he was kind of just like, well, that's my handler, I know him. But then he was kind of going around with Tyler after he was like, no, come with me. And then again, I think this is definitely another bit of overlooked writing. Okay, we are assuming this is a trusted handler, so he has, say, at least known Ovi for, let's say, a year to be a trusted advisor. Let's say minimum a year, probably longer than that. He knows this guy, the handler. He's known this Tyler guy 5 minutes. Granted, yes, he saved him, he saved his life. But he's known this Tyler guy 5 minutes. So why would he decide to stay with Tyler? That does not make sense. Doesn't make any sense. But anyway, so he decides to stay with Tyler, and then the handler and Tyler get into it. We get into it and we get a bit of, fist-to-fist combat. We get a bit of a knife combat. It's not necessarily like a sword fight, but it's like a knife fight. And that was definitely a satisfying fight because I feel like they're both good characters in terms of providing action. So there was one point where I did suspect the handler of maybe being a dodgy character, but then we do see him temporarily have possession of Ovi and we see him killing corrupt police officers. So at that point, I'm just confused now. Why are Tyler and this handler beefing? Then obviously Ovi ends up back in Tyler's possession after Tyler drives his car into the handler. And when he drove his car into the handler, I'm not gonna lie, that looked a bit funny because it looked like they had him on this type of bungee jump apparatus because if you were to get hit by a car, I'm not sure if you would go flying the way that he did. I'm not sure if you would go flying the way that he did, especially the way that he did because it was like a starfish flying. I thought it was a bit funny. And then obviously we see our first jumping out of a car action move, and we see our first explosion as well. Well, after the car that Ovi and Tyler jump out of crashes in, I think it was a trap laid out by the enemies. So with that trap, the enemies were hoping that they finally got Ovi and Tyler together. At this point, I guess they didn't really care about money. It was just about killing Ovi and getting one over on Ovi's dad. And it starts to become even more high stakes with Tyler because now the gang actually have a visual on what he actually looks like. They've got his face. I guess they can now give that to the local people and be like, well, call me up if you've seen this guy walking around. And obviously in India, when you're like literally like the only white person on the street, it's not gonna be that hard to locate you if you were to be spotted. So Tyler's mercenary agent friend calls him up and breaks some news to Tyler and basically says that everybody is dead and how the handler has two-timed them and basically was trying to get them to do all the heavy lifting and then run off with Ovi without paying them. And it is very clear why the handler was acting so shady and shifty, because he was trying to be cheap. And yeah, that is bloody cheeky. Somebody has risked their life, put their blood, sweat and tears, and then you're going to short them. That is cheeky. We are definitely on beef after that. So she basically says that, the boy is a lost cause. You're not going to get any money out of it. So we're going to organise a helicopter for you, but just leave the boy behind because he's worth more hassle at this point. So I guess at this point, Tyler has somehow formed this bond with Ovi, and he's basically saying how, well, he's going to keep him because he could be valuable. We're going to get money out of him. We have to save him. And even though he was saying, this talk about money, at this point, it was kind of clear that he somehow, I'm not really sure in this quick amount of time, had a soft spot for Ovi and didn't want to leave him behind. Sort of a kind of moral dilemma, but again, he's supposed to be this mercenary. I'm not sure if they're even teaching people to have emotions at mercenary school. You know, it kind of, the common film of the mercenary is that you're meant to have no feelings. That's the deal. So again, I'm not really sure how he's managed to care about this Ovi boy in 24 hours so much. I just don't get it. And then obviously we have a slight flashback of this boy that could pass as Tyler's son. So we're getting a clearer picture now. He's obviously depressed because he's lost his child. So the handler knows that the jig is up now. He's defeated and he's calling his wife and basically saying, you know, if you don't hear from me in 24 hours, pack your shit and go, disappear. So the wife obviously knows that stuff is getting bad. He knows that stuff is getting bad because obviously the boss was like, if you don't get me my son back, you and your whole family are finished. And girl, can you imagine your husband calling you saying, this is why I could not be involved with a gangbanger or somebody who's involved with this gang life, because the stress, honey. You know shit is getting real when they're calling you up telling you, you know, in 12 hours, if you ain't hear from me, that life just ain't for me. So then we see Tyler and Ovi on the move again. They're trying to get to this chopper and, you know, the streets are hot, so they're trying to move quietly. But Amir has now sent out the gang of children to fight Tyler and Ovi. I thought, again, that was just very weird, a weird choice of soldiers to put on the ground. But, you know, this is what they have decided. And when the children came, obviously even Tyler was just like, what the fuck? I was like, are we going to see a fight scene with children now? Because, you know, this will be a little bit problematic. You know, Tyler is a grown-ass man. Is he meant to be beating up these kids now? So we do see, you know, a fight between Tyler and these kids. It's definitely a bit less brutal. He definitely goes easy on the kids. One child does end up getting their finger shot off. The way he keeps it, you know, very much, you know, he uses as much force as he needs for these kids. But yeah, I'm not sure about it. I feel like the concept of it was funny, but yeah, I don't know if it was needed. What do you guys think about the whole child fight scene? And then what's even more interesting is that after the fight scene, one of the kids who was like literally just the other day was getting told to chop his fingers off is now piping up like, oh yeah, I want to be the one who kills Tyler. I want to be the guy to do it and stuff like that. Wanting to impress the bad guy who literally was telling him, chop off your fingers. The whole character, that little, I think he was like 12 or 13-year-old, the one with the kind of scar on his face. Again, that was not realistic to me. I just don't think, why would you be wanting to kiss somebody's ass who is obviously a cruel criminal? Your mate the other day literally got thrown off the balcony to what we're assuming is either his paralysis or his death. So again, I'm not really understanding how this quick turnover of him now kissing this boss's ass. I'm thinking maybe he's angry about his finger getting blown off, but I'm just kind of thinking, like, nobody told you to go out there and fight a grown-ass mercenary. Who told you to do that? Like, you lost the fight, just accept the L. But yeah, that kid was annoying, to be honest. Ovi and Tyler can't access the helicopter. The streets are too hot, and they call an emergency contact, which happens to be David Harbour. Now, everything is cool, you know. David's character has a nice house. Everything's cool. Everything's chill. You know, Ovi and Tyler have a heart-to-heart and his partner left him. Seems like he's had a pretty miserable life. But again, trained mercenary, opening up to a 12-ish-year-old boy that he barely knows. Not really buying it. Obviously, I guess him being this, you know, brutal mercenary, they had to create this type of softness to him, you know, for some sort of development. But even when he was crying, it wasn't really convincing to me. It just kind of felt like, okay, his face is red, there's tears coming down his eyes, but I didn't really believe it, to be honest. But yeah, did anyone kind of catch the feels at that scene, or were you just kind of just like, yeah, it's not really doing it for me? David, the well-meaning friend, turns sinister, and he's basically telling Tyler, like, look, you and this boy are not going to get out of here alive, so you would even be doing him a kindness, killing him, because even if he goes back to his father, he's just going to have a miserable life. There's always going to be like a hit out on him because of his father and stuff like that. Then he starts talking about, well, he was speaking to some people and apparently there is a 10 mil price on his head for his body in a body bag. And, why don't we get together and split the 10 mil? And I was just thinking, okay, I could see where this was going. And, when he said 10 mil, I was like, 10 mil? I'm going to have to see some receipts for this 10 mil because I'm not buying it. 10 mil from these gangsters who are hiring kids. I mean, where they were living at looks nice. And, they've basically got the police in their hands. But 10 mil? I'm not buying that. And especially, how they don't respect people that are not from their country. They probably just take the money and kill them. So I'm not really sure if I would have taken the bait. I think when I did hear 10 million, I probably would have been like, let me hear what you're saying. I think if 10 million was realistically on the table, Ovi, it was definitely nice knowing you. It's been sweet, innit? But I think realistically, 10 mil was never probably going to be on the table. But if there was, I definitely would have sold Ovi down the river. And especially if the David guy was offering to do the dirty work as well, and I didn't have to do anything, just collect the money. Sorry, Ovi, you're gone. But what do you guys think? But what would you guys have done? Realistically, 10 mil, guaranteed 10 mil, would you have given up Ovi for the slaughter? Let me know in the comments. But yeah, obviously Tyler, he's on this moral shit, so he's not really down for getting 10 mil or the possibility of 10 mil, even though I think it was probably unrealistic. And then what do you know, there's a scuffle between them. And I think David and Chris Hemsworth in that scene was probably the poorest choreography in the whole film. I think that's probably on David's part, to be honest. I'm gonna say David, the choreography was a bit stiff from him. You can definitely tell that he wasn't used to doing these action scenes. Then obviously the scuffle between them, it's looking like David is going to kill Tyler. We all know that's not going to happen. And then what do you know, Ovi just shoots him up and he dies. So okay, Ovi, he knows how to shoot a gun, okay, maybe he's not just here to be scared and just be looking around all the time. And I was just thinking, if Ovi could have done that then, he's been a bit lazy because he definitely could have helped pick off a few soldiers before. So after that, Liam calls up Ovi's handler to join forces and get Ovi out of Bangladesh. He calls up his agency and he's like, you know what, we're keeping the boy, we're saving the boy, we completed the mission. And they're just like, we're not sure, but obviously they have a soft spot for Tyler, so they're going to help him out. But again, I'm going to keep saying it. Obviously, this is a very high-risk mission. Again, I'm not sure if a mercenary would decide to do this high-risk mission if there was not going to be any payment involved. Because at this point, it kind of seemed like Liam didn't care if he got money or not. It kind of seemed like he was on this spiritual journey of selflessness. So the deal is that Hannah and the Ovi are going to advance to the pickup point, which is across this bridge. Taylor's going to stay behind and distract and hold off the troops for as long as he can. So at this point, I was thinking there's probably going to be a good chance that Tyler does not make it. It's either going to be a thing where Tyler makes it by the skin of his teeth or he's going to end up dying. But I was leaning more towards dying. So then the last kind of chunk of the film is the standoff between Hannah fighting the people on the bridge trying to protect Ovi and Liam trying to hold off people who are trying to get to the bridge. And then of course the agents on the mercenary team swoop in as well, and it's this really big bloodbath. Now I did like the action for this scene, but it definitely wasn't my favourite. I think after a while it kind of just felt like you were playing a video game. At first it's exciting, but after like the 20th person that you've killed, you're getting a bit bored. And that's what I started to get, because it's kind of like, okay, it's clear that Ovi is probably going to get free, but we're kind of just waiting on, is the handler going to survive, is Tyler going to survive, and how are they all going to end up escaping. All sorts of weapons. We've got machine guns, we've got snipers, we've got rocket launchers going on. Got a lot of explosions going on. There was some kind of explosions where I was just like, well, how come that blew up but how come that car blew up but the car next to it didn't? You know, the car that was holding Ovi. Some of the explosions, again, didn't really make a ton of astronomical sense. Obviously, the first death was the handler. I kind of saw it coming. I kind of felt like, but I thought it was either going to be like either or. So I thought it was either going to be the Tyler died or the handler died. And I thought the handler would definitely be easy pickings to kill. I think his death was filmed definitely quite well. It was definitely just like, you know, you were reaching for him. You thought maybe he was making some progress and then he was gone. So I feel like the way that his death was shot was quite good. You knew it was coming, but you weren't really sure when it was going to be. So his death did kind of take me by surprise because it was like an instant death. Like, it wasn't even like, you know, he's holding on for dear life. Like, when he was gone, like, you knew he was gone. And what I thought was quite funny is that when Tyler eventually ends up on the bridge, he doesn't even like stop and pay his respects to Handler's body or even like acknowledge his dead body just to say, oh look, the Handler's dead. He kind of just walks past him like he's just another dead soldier. I'm not sure if you didn't see him, but I thought that was a bit strange because obviously if his eyes are looking everywhere, you know, in his mercenary brain, he's got to make sure that everybody's dead. So he probably did see him. So the fact that he just didn't acknowledge his dead body was, again, a bit weird to me. I was just like, damn, it's like that. Like, I know you didn't like each other, but I didn't think it was that bad. So the helicopter finally arrives. You know, there was some doubt about the helicopter because the passenger with the helicopter, the passenger next to the person flying the helicopter, got shot and killed. When that happened, I was just like, oh shit, they're getting people in the helicopters. That sniper's good. And then they tease us with Tyler's survival. There's numerous times where we're just like, is he gonna finally die? Is he not? There, you know, the first instance is obviously on the bridge. It looks like he's gonna get taken out by the sniper, but obviously his friend helps him out. But obviously his friend helps him out before the sniper. But obviously his friend gets the sniper before the sniper gets Tyler. Then it's not looking good for him. He's been shot and he's got blood coming out of his mouth. Ovi's got to him now and Ovi is crying and Tyler's telling him, you know, go to the helicopter, run to the helicopter, leave me behind, kind of thing. And again, I have to insert again, I'm not sure again if that would be realistic. I think obviously if I was Ovi, I would definitely be grateful, but I wouldn't be running back into the danger zone to comfort the person who saved me, because I'm trying to save myself. I'm trying to carry on his good work and then pay my respects in his head. I don't think if somebody would now run towards danger over somebody they've literally known 24 hours. Granted, yes, he saved his life, but again, self-preservation. Where is the self-preservation? I don't buy it. And then all of a sudden, Tyler manages to get up on his feet and he's actually doing some damage to the soldiers. He's managing to shoot his gun. He's hitting them. He's managing not to get hit. And again, I'm not sure if that was realistic because obviously the blood is coming out of his mouth. I'm assuming now his lungs are filling up with blood. So I'm not sure if somebody whose lungs is filling up with blood would be capable of now standing up and having good aim to shoot at the police officers and not get hit. Because I'm thinking, you're about like 20% of your normal capacity now, are still managing to murk off these soldiers who have 100% of their capacity. It didn't really make sense. And then obviously he's now turning around now, walking towards the helicopter, and I already knew it was too good to be true because I was just thinking, first off, the people who are watching him come to the helicopter, his team, none of them are on guard. The girl agent, she's just kind of looking like, oh, come to me, darling. But she's not on guard. So I'm just thinking, so nobody is even on guard here. And then obviously he gets shot in the neck. And that was just a fatal shot, the shot in the neck. And he was shot in the neck by the guy who was piping up, the one who was about to get 2 fingers cut off and now suddenly wants to kiss the boss's ass. That kid. So at least, he followed through with what he said. But yeah, we knew he was a goner then, and very dramatically he falls off of the bridge and into the sea. And Ovi is like really upset. He's trying to run to him. the agent person is stopping him. Again, I'm just kind of thinking, self-preservation. I get it, you're upset, but why are you running towards danger? Like, this guy is the man of your life, is the love of your life. Like, you've known the guy 24 hours. So after that, I feel like it's pretty much the end of the film after that. There's not really much going on. They try and make it interesting, but after that, there's not really much going on at that point. And that's pretty much the end of the film for me anyway. But we do see it 8 months later. We see Ovi at school. Life is pretty much back to normal. He's kind of upset, but at this point I wasn't really invested in Ovi, to be honest, so I didn't really care about where he was 8 months later. Then we see the agent that Tyler was working with in the bathroom with Amir, the bad guy, and she shoots and kills him. And when she did that, I was just kind of like, okay, cool. But it wasn't kind of just like, oh, she found him and she revenged Tyler. It was just kind of like, I was kind of over the film at that point, to be honest. So yeah, that is basically what I thought of the play. On to the verdict. I think overall the action was definitely the best part. The action is what is going to keep you watching the film. The choreography was on point. Chris Hemsworth was on point. There was no doubt in my mind that Chris Hemsworth was not going to deliver. In terms of the narrative is pretty generic, pretty simple, and some of it didn't really make sense. Some of it was a bit unrealistic, but I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't expecting the best plot. In terms of the characters, I was just there for the action. In terms of the characters, I didn't really connect to them. I wasn't sad when Tyler died. I wasn't satisfied when Amir got killed. For me, it was purely the action that kept me engaged in the film. In terms of the acting, there wasn't really much emotional connection there. There wasn't really any standout performances. I think it was pretty much one note again. The action, that was it. I only really enjoyed the characters when they were in action mode rather than being in acting mode. I'd say overall the production was done quite well. The editing was great, the color grading was great, the set design was great. When Amir was having that meal, that whole set that they had looked really beautiful. Costume design was done well. The action scenes were done well. The score was decent as an action score, but I would have liked to hear a bit more of a South Asian influence, considering the environment that they were in, and considering that I feel like they captured the city well. It would have been nice to hear that in the score as well. We only hear snippets of South Asian influence music here and there. It's very fleeting, and I definitely would have liked to have heard a bit more in the film. So I think, taking everything into account, I am going to give the film half marks. I think the action was really great. It's enough for me to recommend watching the film for people who like action films or people who are Chris Hemsworth fans. But there are other aspects, such as the narrative, that is lacking, that prevents me from giving it anything above a 2.5. I think the action definitely does save this film, because if the action wasn't as good as it was, I think a lot of people might have lost interest. But for me, I personally was only here for the action, and I would probably recommend watching it, like I said, if you like action or Chris Hemsworth. So yeah, that's the end of my review. Do let me know what you thought of the film. Did you like it? Did you not? Were you kind of just here for the action and not really here for anything else? What was your favourite scene in the film? And what would you rate this film out of 5? Subscribe if you haven't, and if you have, don't forget to press that notification bell so you'll know when the next review is dropping. Till next time, guys. Bye.